Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. Our headlines today are as regards Vince McMahon stepping back from his role overseeing creative, the Edge retirement, at least the angle thereof, Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair, pushing that back towards WrestleMania, no UFC plans for Ronda Rousey and where she might be going next, Kevin Owens' return schedule, and in fact plans for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Street Profits, Brock Lesnar's return schedule, Cody Rhodes versus Judgment Day and the route he gets to a world championship, John Cena's return, the contracted dates for Trish Stratus and new dates being added to that list, War Games versus Brand Warfare for Survivor Series, Lacey Evans and what she is planning to do next, the next title defenses for Roman Reigns, and a little bit on the current working relationship between Mercedes Moné of New Japan fame now, formerly Sasha Banks, and Triple H of WWE. We will, in addition to all of that, of course, be covering your questions as well. I've just gone live on TikTok with a video basically stating those headlines also. So we're going to be covering all of that at some length, as well as answering whatever questions you have as well. So I'm going to quickly say hi to the people who are already here. Big hello to Joe, to Daz, to Leon, to LF as well. In the Twitch side, say hello to Spider-Boss, Wiggly, Bailey. So quite a few people already having joined us. There we go, that's the rest of them. Ross as well on the YouTube side. We will be answering your questions, and please do be sure to hit like as you join the chat and jump in with your questions. Starting off on the Twitch side, then a lot of people excited, a lot of people saying hello, welcome everyone. Spider-Boss says, what's next for Austin Theory? I do not have that answer, unfortunately. Also says, what do you think about the All-In card so far? There's a couple of big matches that I'm excited for, Punk versus Samoa Joe, for example, but nothing else really jumping out at me. Firstly, huge thank you to Michael, who has subscribed for a record 30th month. We are 6 months away from the 3 years of subscription mark for Michael. Thank you very kindly for that. On the YouTube side, we have quite a few people saying hello and good evening. Good evening to all of you. Thank you very much, Daz, for the like and the share. A few people very happy to see certain ones back. Carmelina says, when do you think Jey Uso will come back? I think it should be a couple of weeks. I would hope it would be a couple of months to really sell it. If they're trying to push this back towards WrestleMania, this might take a while. Brad Skulnick's aside, Tom. Hello, Brad. Razar says, so much news today, ready for spoiler warning. There is quite a lot of it, and I will recap those headlines as well because there are so many of them shortly. Richard says, hello, Tom. Is Dave Meltzer right about Priest being kicked out of Judgment Day? That is his theory. We'll see what actually happens to it. If it's going to happen, it won't happen yet. Ori Welcome says, question, how's Mr. Colohue today? Just back from a good old-fashioned holiday, so in a pretty good spot. How are you? New says, hello, Tom. How are you doing? Doing well, thank you. Joe says, Tom, what do you think John Cena will do when he comes back? That is one of our headlines, and we'll be getting to that. Juan Orozco says, who's more likely to show up to AEW, Goldberg or Edge? Goldberg, because Edge is still under contract and would not be able to or allowed to show up. Long time no see, Michael. Very glad to be back. Very glad to be back. Spider-Boss says, I see Mercedes Money appearing on AEW All Out or maybe Full Gear. As I say, there will be news on the working relationship between Mercedes Money and Triple H later on. I've already explained what is going on with her and AEW. So, let's get to our first piece of news, which will surprise absolutely no one. This is as regards the news that Vince McMahon is looking to step back from his role that he accrued after WrestleMania. The initial plan for Vince McMahon was that he would be overseeing all of creative, and it was required that he would be essentially looking at everything that Triple H scripted and then deciding what actually happened, what stayed, and what goed. What goed? Wow, that's a word that I've just said. Anyway, he was going to be deciding what they used and what they didn't use. This system did not work particularly well for Triple H, and it did not work particularly well for Endeavour, particularly after Vince McMahon said, I can make sure we have a great Raw after Mania, and it was panned and hated on social media. So, when it comes to Vince McMahon, with his current status as having recently had surgery and the Endeavour deal now being finalised, Vince McMahon's mission will be to oversee long-term for both WWE and UFC. He is not likely to be as involved in creative, or in fact involved in creative at all, for quite a long period going forward. Vince McMahon will still be involved. He still wants to review everything. He will simply not be permitted the time to do so. So Vince McMahon is stepping back to work on more big picture things and leaving Triple H, after a small tweak to Triple H's role that we discussed on Friday, to basically oversee all things WWE. Hello Daniela, how are you? Richard says, hello Tom, any news regarding the WWE tag titles getting new designs? Nothing that I've personally heard. There's been a lot of things in the rumour mill about it, but it's not something I've personally heard. Just for everyone, a question for everyone. When it comes to the tag team championships, would you rather have them split or joined and a new title created? What would you prefer? Championship split or a new championship created and them to stay together? Ricky Fawn says, hey Tom, happy Monday, hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you. And Razar says that they're adding JD Don't Google Me to Judgment Day. He has a loose affiliation at the moment, similar to Bret Hart and the NWO. Q43 says, hello Tom, do you know if Shayna's push got cancelled due to her match at SummerSlam? No, to my knowledge the push was not cancelled. However, I have already reported she is receiving the blame because the production staff isn't taking the blame, and Ronda Rousey has already left the company. So it's very much Shayna Baszler who is unfortunately having to take the blame. Spider-Boss would prefer the tag team titles to be split, so both shows have tag team titles, which I don't think is a bad shout at all. Ken says, do you think Lacey Evans will show up in AEW or Impact Wrestling NWA? I imagine if she does choose to wrestle, it will be for a different company, yes. Sean prefers a joined-up championship. Daniela would prefer a split. Carmelina says, do you think Jimmy Uso is going to be getting a new theme? Yes, he will. They are intending to basically diversify and say, this is this Uso, this is that Uso. They need to. They're going to be in different colours, etc. Dad says, Tom, who's next for Cody? That's one of my headlines. We will be getting to that. Leon prefers a joined new title and that there's not enough teams for two sets, which I don't think is unfair. Jack would prefer to split the tag titles. Richard would prefer a new design and to stay joined. Zayn says, are you drinking cherry coke? I'm not at the moment. I'm actually out of cherry coke, so I'm drinking water. Daz and Ross, in fact, would prefer championships split. Richard says, hello Tom. When will Bobby's new faction debut their name? They need to basically debut as a faction first, so they are still very much in the position of becoming what they can be first. Ricky would prefer them split. Ken would also prefer the tag team titles split. Spider-Boss says, just a question, did Triple H ever put in contact with Mercedes before she joined New Japan? One of the headlines, as you know, Spider-Boss, is as regards a working relationship between Mercedes Money and Triple H. So stick around and you will get your answer. Squid says, hi Tom, hope all is well. Doing very well, thank you Squid, thank you kindly. Richard says, hello Tom, why did Bianca get written off on Friday? To my knowledge, it's essentially to further the storyline and the different version of her that will be returning. It's similar to when the Man was injured to go and film a a film, and then come back and work as a very different character. Bianca Belair usually gets a little bit of time off periodically. She doesn't have a limited date contract, but sometimes people want a break, and I feel that this is going to work with the relaunch of her character to come. Thank you very much, Eric the Pharaoh, for following on the Twitch side. Thank you very kindly. By all means, jump in with your questions, and I'll be sure to answer them as well. Ross says, unless they make the tag team division across all brands, he would like them split. Ricky says, I say split. Ken says split as well. I've already read those. Joey says, Fightful, thank you for sourcing. Reported some people backstage in AEW think Edge will join. Have you heard anything on this? Edge's retirement plans is next up in my news. Rizal says, I think they should keep one set of tag titles and Raw can be the more tag heavy show since it's longer. Leon says, I thought Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams were joining Bobby's faction since they teased it. Wonder if they scrapped that idea. There was no intention for them to actually join, though Bobby Lashley was actually pushing to make that happen, as I previously reported. I initially reported on this that it was essentially as a stopgap because there was a few people who unfortunately did catch as many of you know, flu-like symptoms, and it did mean that they weren't able to further that storyline that week. The use of Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes was to basically sit in for them. Richard says, hello Tom, is Shotzi and Bailey's story on hold or scrapped? On hold at the moment, not scrapped. We will be seeing them return to it. Spider-Boss says, what do you think about the Bloodline storyline? According to Kurt Angle, the Bloodline storyline is getting boring. He's entitled to his opinion. Juan Orozco says, hey Tom, according to Sportskeeda, thank you for sourcing, they think Mercedes Money will be debuting for AEW. They've been saying this for the past 6 months. I'm losing hope. She is injured. There's not much she can do in that time. I have already spoken about this, but I'll reiterate when I get to that piece of news. Andrew says, what does the future hold for Edge? Will he follow Christian to AEW? That is my very next piece of news. Sean says, evening Tom, how was your day, lad? Doing very well, thank you. It was a pretty good day, pretty solid, pretty chill, and those are the sort of days I love. Zayn says, do you think Charlotte Flair is the best dressed woman in the WWE? That's very much down to personal opinion. LF says, do you think Roman will be back in time for Survivor Series? That is one of my pieces of news. Richard says, any news on Braun's health and his return? Recovering well, should be returning at some point soon. Joey says, do you know if there's been any creative pitches for Kairi Sane since she's rumoured to return? The creative team have been asked previously to come up with some ideas, and there's no doubt in my mind that they've come up with some interesting things. Ken says, when will Kevin Owens be returning? That is my 5th piece of news. Marcel says, hi Tom, how are you? Doing well, Marcel, thank you for joining. Jon says, steel cage match probably payback at the end of the Becky Trish feud. Should be, but I have more on the dates for Trish Stratus to come. Richard says, hello Tom, is Asuka turning face again as Io is staying heel? Well, it really depends how they play it. At the moment, Asuka is still heel. There is more to work through before they come back together. Michael said, glad All In is in London, so it starts at noon Eastern time. Hope you enjoy it, mate. Spider-Boss says, according to Fightful, AEW has been interested in bringing Maria May after her run in Stardom began. Maria May has actually already wrestled for AEW. Fun little fact that a lot of people don't seem to know. Maria May has already wrestled for AEW. KJ says, what's up, Mr. Colohue? Welcome, KJ. How you doing? Joey says, Nick Aldis still doing a tryout for a producer role, or was it a one-off thing? He is not still doing a tryout. They are essentially at this point working out what they think of his work. And Richard says, hello Tom, when do you see JD joining Judgment Day? I don't necessarily see that happening. At the moment it's a loose affiliation similar to Bret Hart and the NWO. So I'm going to read out the headlines one more time because there's a lot more people in the room right now and I want you all to know what's coming. So while I read this out, let me know what pieces of news you're excited about. So I started with Vince taking a step back. Next up is Edge and his retirement plans. After that, the news of Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair. A return to UFC for Ronda has been ruled out. Kevin Owens return schedule. Plans for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Street Profits. Brock Lesnar's return schedule. What's next for Cody Rhodes and how it gets him to a world championship. John Cena returning. Contracted dates being increased for Trish Stratus. War Games or Brand Warfare for WWE Survivor Series. What's next for Lacey Evans, what she's going to be doing in the future. Roman Reigns and his title defenses incoming. And something on the working relationship between Mercedes Money, formerly Sasha Banks, and Triple H. Spider-Boss says, I personally see Finn Balor getting kicked out from the Judgment Day. Daz says, what matches are you looking forward to after I sent you the card, Tom, for All In? The match I'm most excited for All In is definitely CM Punk versus Samoa Joe, though I feel FTR versus the Young Bucks will also be good. Richard says, hello, Tom. Is Finn Balor done fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship as Seth has moved on to Shinsuke? Yes. Rizal says, why does WWE want to announce PLE matches? Why do they wait to announce the matches till a week or two till the show? They don't really do that. There's a couple of times they do that, but you always know exactly what you're going to get. KJ says, I'm definitely curious about Edge. Joey says, I don't think Vince will have a lot of time to be as involved with WWE creative since he's going to be overseeing the UFC, which suggests to me you may have seen what I was saying there. That says Cena, excited for Cena. Bailey says, how soon do you think we'll see limited date contracts coming for Becky and Charlotte? They're already in the process of making that happen. Becky, to my knowledge, does have some limited dates already. LF says, do you think we'll ever see Scarlett wrestle more in the future? I don't necessarily think we'll see her wrestle in WWE again. Leon and Jack are both excited to hear more about Roman Reigns. Steve from SCW says, hope you're well, sir. As a huge Rated R Superstar fan, looking forward to the Edge news. KJ says, curious for what's next for Cody too, and who Cena could face at the show in India. Michael says, I know there are a lot of complaints about the match build for All In. I actually think it's been great. KJ says, wait, did you say Mercedes and Triple H? Yes, I did. Joey says they're really teasing Damien leaving Judgment Day. Do you think JD McDonough will replace him? Once again, from what I'm seeing, it's a loose affiliation between JD McDonough, similar to Bret Hart and the NWO. KJ says, do you have any news on Carlito? He's disappeared since his MSG appearance. Yeah, there was never actually an intention to have him come back and wrestle. He was there for a singular pop. Ricky says, I'm excited to hear about Edge and Roman. Marcel says, I hope Cena versus LA Knight in a promo battle and a match with LA Knight winning. I don't see that one. Joey says, is Johnny Gargano still on creative hiatus, or are there creative pitches for him? You can, in fact, be both on creative hiatus and have creative pitches. He will be on creative hiatus until he's back on TV. Ross says, is the India show on the network? I don't believe so, but correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, sorry, words are hard. Words are difficult, especially when you spend all of your time saying them, and I stumbled over even that. Edge retirement news. Edge's contract is running out. It was, in fact, his last date wrestling against Sheamus, but the WWE are confident that there will in fact be a new contract signed by Edge. They've already pitched the contract, although it is for a little bit less money than you might expect, because Nick Khan has tried to ensure that not too much money is going out. There are limitations that have been imposed because of the Endeavour merger, which means they can't spend more than they expect, but when it comes to Edge, they are believing he is likely to sign a new deal. As regards AEW, they've been confident that they're going to sign Edge for several years now, and it's never actually happened. They were also confident they were going to sign Randy Orton, and that also never happened. Randy Orton, in fact, used AEW to get a pretty good deal for himself and a pretty good raise that saw him spend a lot more money on things that Matt Riddle sells. Alex says, choose from your heart. Tell me who you think will be the 2024 Warrior Award recipient in the Hall of Fame next year in Philly. And then gives me some options. I'm not going into that, Alex. I'm not going into that. I think there is no way that I can answer that without somebody deserving missing out. So I'm absolutely not going to answer that. Sean says, according to Fightful, there have never been any significant creative plans for Odyssey Jones on the Raw brand. I can't remember who it was that reported that there were plans, but I know that it's not something that I've personally reported. Spider-Boss says, any plans for the women's tag team titles now that Piper Niven joined Chelsea Green? Yes, they're going to wrestle for them and defend them. Sean says, just as Stardom was getting more exposure, WWE and AEW start the poaching of their talent, which is what's happened for the entirety of Stardom. Joe says, I'm really looking forward to the news about John Cena. Ever since I started watching WWE, I've always watched John Cena a lot. KJ says, fans on X, Twitter, were fantasizing the possibility of Waller and Miz versus LA and Cena in SmackDown. What do you, to be honest, if that's the case, I don't hate it. Waller and Miz have an affiliation now, and obviously Miz is working with LA Knight. John Cena tends to work with whoever's the biggest deal at that time. Right now, that is LA Knight. KJ says, things that Matt Riddle sells, and then sips water. Joey says, at this rate, it feels like Bray will never be back. I reported on that one on Friday. Rizal says, it seems the ball is in Edge's court on what or where he wants to go, and that is absolutely correct. It is entirely up to Edge whether he signs the deal that the WWE have offered him or whether he goes to AEW, but AEW cannot at this point approach him. So they may feel confident, but they've got absolutely no reason to, because they're not legally allowed to talk to Edge. Personally, I wouldn't expect the quotes about AEW being confident are actually coming from AEW. JJ says, hey Tom, do you think it's Rhea versus Becky or Liv for WrestleMania? Rhea versus Becky, no question for me. No question. Spider-Boss says, who do you see as Io Sky's first opponent for the women's title? Bianca Belair again, quite possibly. Gotcha, KJ. Ashley Watson says, any news on NXT Europe? Now that there seems to be a deal in place for Kairi Sane, William Regal will be continuing with the launch of NXT Europe. There is still quite a lot to be worked out, but it is in progress and they've not forgotten about it. Tim Butler says, hello all. Hello, Tim Butler. KJ says, Edge is still under contract. That will be tampering. People don't understand that, obviously. Very much true. And Wiggly says, I see John Cena will be travelling to India. I think what you'll find is that you don't see John Cena travelling to India because you don't see John Cena. If you have just joined us, please do remember to hit the like button. We currently have 69 nice people watching and only the 23 likes, which is a third of that number. If you're able to, please hit the thumbs up. It does really help the channel to grow and, of course, the everything to expand with it. If you're able to as well and haven't yet done so, please do click subscribe. We are trying to get to 2,600 and there is still a bit of work to do to get there. King Azza says, hey Tom, do you think we'll get CM Punk versus MJF at some point? Yeah, they're already building towards that. Joey says, do you have any updates on NXT EU? It's supposed to be launching next month. Still very much in progress, still very much going to be happening. Spider-Boss says, any idea why Gigi Dolan has been off TV in NXT? I do not. I actually have absolutely no idea. But there's a few people who've been in a little bit of creative hiatus over the past few months. Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair. You may have seen me posting this both on the good old-fashioned Twitter, got 14,000 views, which is more than I have followers, so I'm pretty happy with the results there, or also on Threads, where I have absolutely no idea how many views it had, but it got 0 likes. I'm on Threads, by the way, for those who aren't already aware. We are looking at making some changes away from Twitter. At the moment, I mostly use it for making replies because people seem to engage with that, so that's kind of what I'm doing, at least until I get the following tab. So you can, of course, follow on Threads as well. But be sure to subscribe if you haven't already on YouTube. Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair. I've mentioned this on Twitter. I've mentioned it on Threads. The plans for Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair is to try and create a feud that defines the company and the career for both women. Essentially, the plan seems to be to make you forget about everything with Sasha Banks versus Charlotte, everything with Bayley or Becky Lynch for Bianca Belair, to make this the singular defining feud for both women. So it is starting to feel like this is going to be a match for WrestleMania. This, of course, would make room for Io Sky versus Asuka at WrestleMania, though I do feel that Bayley versus Io Sky might be more likely and that Asuka might sort of fall off the wayside here. When it comes to Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair, expect to see a very different Bianca Belair developing and unraveling over the next few months. The work that the Street Profits are currently doing with Bobby Lashley will play into this. So my next question has to be, Bianca Belair, face or heel? What would you prefer going forward for Bianca Belair, a face or a heel? Jan says, any future plans for Cora Jade and WWE? They are currently trying to put together plans for her for the main roster, but at the moment everything that's been pitched just hasn't quite been good enough, so they haven't gone with it. One says, hey Tom, I don't get why people want to see the Elite versus CMFTR. It's not like it will draw like the Bloodline. It will draw, I promise you that, but I wouldn't think anything can draw like the Bloodline. But in many ways, if I can give you £100 or I can give you £80, and then I said, okay, I can only give you £80, you wouldn't say, nope, I need the 100. Only the 100's worth it. Only the 100's a draw. No. If something good, you're still going to want it. So I don't see it being the same thing. Wiggly says, we haven't seen Tamina in a while. Has she now retired? Nope, she'll be there for the Rumble, and that will be all. King Azza says, Tom, what if Roman holds the championship past WrestleMania 40? Then he will hold the championship past WrestleMania 40. Wiggly says, what's happened with Xia Li? Creative hiatus. They have no real plans for her. Michael wants heel Bianca, which is different to Wiggly, who wants face Bianca. Spider-Boss says Bianca versus Charlotte. Chosen One versus Chosen One. Who wins? The most chosen. I think Bianca. Spider-Boss also suggests heel Bianca. Leon says Asuka is on the WrestleMania poster. I'm remaining confident that we're going to get Asuka versus Io Sky, but that confidence is wavering slightly. Sean says heel. Ricky says heel. Bailey says Bianca as a heel she was in NXT. Leon says heel. King Azza thinks more like a tweener. Chris Leclerc, welcome, says heel. Eric says two-part question. One, are you ready for All In? Yep. Two, of the two highly unlikely debuts for Saturday, who do you see as the most likely? No, not doing that. I don't do that. I don't do which of these impossibilities is most likely. See, Tom said it's going to happen. That's not what I do. Daz says heel. Ross says, got you followed on Fred. Tim, not done much myself with it yet. Yeah, it needs work. It's clearly made very last second, and they're just trying to do what they can with it, but it needs work. Joe says heel. Wiggly says, will we see R-Truth return anytime soon? Not anytime soon, no. Noob says Bianca Belair is a heel. Ross also thinks a heel. Daniel Craigie, welcome. Says, hi Tom. Been out of the wrestling loop for a while, but there is only one question on everyone's lips. When is Leatherface becoming all elite? Hopefully never. Jack wants Bianca as a heel. Wiggly says, will Asuka get a WrestleMania moment then? Nope, I don't think she will ever, again, win a top championship. Eric suggests heel. Mark Justice says, what's up Tom Colohue? What matches do you see happening at Payback? Well, logically, we should be looking at either Asuka or Charlotte versus Io, but I don't necessarily see that coming. Bianca Belair might not be off for that period of time. Charlotte Flair getting the opportunity certainly adds a lot of heat to the Bianca element. Then, of course, we have Rhea Ripley taking on Raquel Rodriguez. That seems to be where we're headed as well. After that, it becomes a bit more dicey, though there is more talk about where Cody Rhodes will go next, and the Tag Team Championships coming up soon. Spider-Boss says Raquel Rodriguez abusing Rhea on Raw was nice. Finally, Rhea interacting more with the Raw Women's Division. There are 2 Rhea Ripleys. Joey says, do you think Brock will be back for Fastlane, or are they going to save him for the Rumble? More news on Brock Lesnar is incoming. Sean said they could have Charlotte and Bianca as heels. They just want to beat the hell out of each other to get to the title. Wouldn't hate it. Razar says, I'm going to throw a wild prediction out there. I think we'll see Asuka and Kairi reunite versus Io and Bayley for the tag title at WrestleMania. Ooh, okay. Well, who goes in as champion then? King Azza says, I don't see her turning heel not until after WrestleMania 40. Okay, so where was I? No, we're good. Sean says, if Roman won't be at Payback, then I can see Seth versus Shinsuke main eventing. Me too. Pardon me. Spider-Boss says, never expected a babyface Charlotte. Would be so nice to see. I liked. Ronda Rousey has been told in no uncertain terms, with a public pronouncement by Dana White, that she will not be returning to the UFC. The main reason she has been told this is because, well, she hasn't actually asked to return to the UFC. At no point has Ronda Rousey shown any interest in a return to the UFC, and everyone I've spoken to has been very clear. She was done. She was done with WWE, she was done with UFC, she was done several months before she actually left. She just wanted to move on, put over Shayna Baszler on the way out. There is no intention of returning to the UFC. If Ronda Rousey did want to return to the UFC, what she needed to do was stay in the WWE, because there is talk of a number of different wrestlers having combined Endeavor-style contracts where you have both WWE and UFC in your contract and can wrestle for both entities. Spider-Ball says, any plans to push Nikki Cross for the main event? Nope. And when will we expect Gunter to lose the belt? Well, you might not. You might not for a long time. Dark Society says, hi Tom. How are you doing? Forgot you were live. Well, I'm back, Dark Society. It'll be regular Monday and Friday. I look forward to seeing more of you. Richard says, heel Bianca, but it's hard to take Charlotte as a face again. Seems to be working at the moment. Joey says, do you think Cody faces Finn or JD McDonough at Payback? As I've already mentioned, news on Cody is incoming. King Azza says, Tom, where do you see Trish and Becky's feud going forwards? News on Trish's contracted dates is incoming. Ashley says, is there a set return date for Kairi Sane? Not as of yet. I don't believe all the paperwork has been signed. Spider-Boss says, about Roman at Payback, maybe the Judgment Day main event. Wiggly says, will Ronda return to WWE? I believe I just answered that one. Joey says, why aren't they saving Gable versus Gunter for Payback? Because Triple H does not want too many matches on his pay-per-views. Razar says, is Ronda no longer under WWE contract? That is correct. Wiggly says, having a female as a lead inductee at the Hall of Fame at WrestleMania 40 would be quite cool. Oh, you're predicting Ronda returns for the next inductee in the Hall of Fame. And no, Dark Society, you did not miss anything on Roman just yet. Next up, Kevin Owens is back to wrestling, and what I will say is that he was never actually signed off. At no point was Kevin Owens told, you are not cleared, you cannot wrestle. They just basically said to him, take a bit of time, heal up, you're a bit banged up at the minute, which he was. Sami Zayn also is actively wrestling. So both Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are back in the wrestling picture. So if you want news on a return, they have already returned. And in fact, in Kevin Owens' point of view, didn't actually go anywhere. They will be returning and, well, I say returning, they will be continuing to wrestle on screen, and they continue to play a very large part in plans for the WWE and the tag team division going forwards. Bobby Lashley working with the Street Profits is a huge move towards the Street Profits versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the tag team championships. My question at this point, naturally, is when that match happens, who do you want to see leave with the championships? Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, or the Street Profits? Sean says, chances Ronda shows up at All In? -5 stars. Spider-Boss says, did Ronda leave WWE in bad terms? Depends on who you're talking to. Wiggly says, will we ever see William Regal on screen again? Yes. One says, will Paige be the only big female they'll ever sign? You mean AEW? No. Razar says, honestly, I'd like to see Rhea and Raquel main event. You will not be seeing that. Steve suggests Cody, Sami and KO versus Judgment Day at Payback. And I will be talking on that a little bit later. In fact, it's my... Oh, there's 2 more pieces of news first. King Azza says, Tom, this is my take, but Cody versus Roman at Mania 40 will be just as bad as John Cena versus The Rock because of the predictable element. Noob says, I know that Asuka isn't winning at Mania because that'll be a big blow for her career every year. Wiggly says, is Bret Hart still under a Legends contract? Nope. Razar says, is WWE not a strict of injuries anymore? How are Kevin and Sami still wrestling if they're hurt? Because there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. Ricky wants the Street Profits to be the next tag team champions. Jack agrees the same. Spider-Boss says heel Street Profits as tag team champions would be cool. Jan says, who will main event Payback? More on that shortly. Ken says, what match at All Out do you think will be the best? I don't know about All Out. I only really know about All In. The other Mike says, I think the champs to defend 2 times against a Raw tag team, Judgment Day, and against a SmackDown team, the Street Profits. Michael says, I really don't think WWE have done Asuka justice on the main roster, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. Brock Lesnar. His contract typically runs from SummerSlam until SummerSlam. It's for more than a year, but that's usually when he takes a bit of a break, works out what to do next, and goes from there. Brock Lesnar, pretty historically, has made big returns around the Royal Rumble time. I can confirm that Brock Lesnar will be in attendance for next year's Royal Rumble, and will have a match at WrestleMania. He has still got matches on his deal, or at least signed a new deal to give him some more dates. He's just planning to take a break. From what I can tell, he doesn't like working under someone who isn't Vince McMahon, but he is adapting to that, and there is a lot of respect between he and Triple H. So Brock Lesnar will be returning by the Royal Rumble and will have a match at WrestleMania. Sean says, Sami and KO owe me a match against DIY. And Ori prefers the idea of Bianca as a heel. Cody Rhodes is currently feuding with the Judgment Day. And he's feuding with the elements of Judgment Day, which are, of course, the leader, Finn Balor, with plans for a singles match in the offing between Cody Rhodes and Finn Balor. There is also work with Damian Priest, but this is not long-term what they're planning early. There will be work with Damian Priest, but the big feud between Damian Priest and Cody Rhodes will be involving a world championship. They are currently pitching in the creative team a big win for Damian Priest, a big problem with Judgment Day because of that win, and then Cody Rhodes to use that to claim the championship. That would then take him to WrestleMania as the World Heavyweight Champion. This, of course, flies in the face of rumours that it will be Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, but those are rumours that I still personally do not believe. Cody Rhodes is currently working against the Judgment Day. He is looking for backup, and as Steve has suggested, the easiest backup he can find are people he already has friendships with, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. This could well result in Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Finn Balor, Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio as early as Payback. A 6-man tag would of course protect Kevin Owens, who's taken quite a few big bumps, to protect Sami Zayn, who's having a few issues with his elbow, and it could mean that they are able to produce a very high quality match while only wrestling about 5 minutes each. That for me ticks every box you could possibly want. Dark Society says, who's your favourite heel right now? Hard to say. I would go Rhea Ripley, though I will also show some love for Dominic Mysterio. Wiggly says, am I the only one who prefers face Bianca? You seem to be. Khalid is here, says, hey Tom mate. Hello Khalid, how are you doing? Michael says, I loved heel Bianca in NXT and I think they should go back to that. Spider-Boss says, could we see a mixed tag team match with Cody and Raquel versus Rhea and Dominic? I mean, we could, I don't think we will. Joey says, are they planning to have Drew turn heel and feud with Riddle? I don't believe so. I think there's more to mine out of the idea of Drew McIntyre versus Gunter. Though it was a very conclusive win by Gunter, I'll tell you that. John Cena is returning to the WWE on next week's SmackDown. He will be working the Superstar Spectacle, I believe it's called, the Indian show, the next week. This, I believe, will not be televised and will be a special that is recorded in India and probably used at a later point to advertise the big push for NXT India. Now, amongst this, John Cena historically will work with one of the most hot prospects to try and give them the rub, and in many ways to try and gain the rub back himself. I would be looking at a Grayson Waller or an LA Knight. LA Knight, I expect, will be the one who works with John Cena in a tag team capacity, and yes, the idea of The Miz and Grayson Waller being the ones makes a lot of sense to me. Dark Society says they're not doing Roman versus Cody 2, just wondering why. Again, I personally have not heard any news about this match happening, and nobody who I've seen report it has enough credibility for me to believe it. Steve says, I like face Bianca, however I think a heel turn would freshen up her character. She has been a face on her entire run in the main roster since the 2020s. Sean says, are you looking forward to Gable versus Gunter tonight, or whenever you get to see it? It will be tomorrow morning, but I am very much looking forward to it. Chad Gable is an incredible wrestler. And Gunter, guess what? Also an incredible wrestler. Wiggly says, will WWE be doing promo work over in India? Anything official like with the Indian government, etc.? I don't think they'll be getting the Indian government, but they will be doing plenty of promotional materials and promotional work once they're over there. Trish Stratus has had a number of dates added to her current working contract, including some live shows which she volunteered for. Trish Stratus was originally going to be wrapping up at SummerSlam. She signed a deal which allowed her to work more dates, and this is why her match with Becky Lynch did not actually happen at SummerSlam. The idea seemed to be that Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch might be happening earlier, in fact before 2024. That doesn't now seem to be happening due to a number of injuries to a few different wrestlers and the unavailability of, for example, Alexa Bliss, who would have been stepping into the breach as well. There was a plan for Alexa Bliss versus Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. This was moved to Liv Morgan, but Liv Morgan, of course, did pick up a number of injuries and unfortunately was not able to fill that void. At the moment, we are still looking to Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley to be the big draw women's feud on Raw. That will likely now be pushed back to WrestleMania, but Trish Stratus has stepped into the breach and offered a bit more of her time. Well done to Trish Stratus, and I do think it'll be a good moment for fans everywhere involved. Michael says we need more Dalton Castle in AEW, so unique and a hell of a wrestler. Seen him live, he stroked my glasses, and I was covered in sweat. The man blinded me. Beautiful man. Steve says, I'd like Trish and Zoe Stark to hold the Women's Tag Team Championships at some stage. A large part of the reason that Trish has, in fact, got some additional dates is because the work of Zoe Stark is being extremely well received. Zoe Stark, at the very least, is hugely benefiting from this particular affiliation. Joey says, I really hope the feud of Trish and Becky is over after Payback. It's been really lackluster. Dark Society says, I'm looking forward to Jimmy and Jay at WrestleMania, even though it's going to be a slow build. Spider-Boss says, we need more Bullet Club Gold. They are awesome. Wiggly says, any truth to the rumours ITV wanted to revive World of Sport? They already have, and it did not work. Survivor Series this year is being put together as we speak. The talk right now is whether or not to focus it around War Games or Brand Warfare. Vince McMahon did want to return to the Brand Warfare style. However, I feel confident that Triple H is still going to make War Games happen and that this year's Survivor Series will feature War Games. What we're going to see in the build to that is more in the way of factions, which is one of the reasons, for example, that Bobby Lashley is a lot more involved at the moment. Imagine, for a moment, Bobby Lashley, Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins and Bianca Belair versus Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley in War Games. For me, I'm into that. Let me know if you're into that. Or if you're not into that, just go for it. Wiggly doesn't view Survivor Series as one of the big four anymore, thinks Money in the Bank is a bigger deal. Alyssa says Cody Rhodes doesn't want the World Heavyweight Championship, he wants a WWE Championship. Then he probably needs to quit and go to the other brand. But that's not up to him. So it's not up to him what he gets. Joey says War Games is way better than Survivor Series concept is dead, I think. Kieran said Brand Warfare is so meh, in my opinion. Nothing comes of it anyway for the brand that wins. Very true. You're right, Kieran. How you doing, mate? Rizal says respect to Trish for putting in the work and showing up almost every week, helping out new talent like Zoe Stark. JJ says, can't believe Becky's lemon shirt is the top seller. I didn't like it. You seem to be in a minority there. KJ says, why can't they just do Brand Warfare and War Games? I'd love that. Why not? KJ says, I'm into the idea Judgment Day versus HB in War Games. What's HB? Kieran says, I agree with Money in the Bank being a big four now instead of Survivor Series. Money in the Bank even gets the bigger arenas. Jack prefers his War Games. Sean suggests Finn, Damien, Dom, McDonough and Rhea versus Cody, Sami, KO, Seth and Becky for War Games, which seems increasingly unlikely. Wiggly says Survivor Series really worked in the Federation era when you had so many big stars like people I don't want to name. Khalid says I wanted that match to happen. Who will be a face? You don't necessarily need it. Oh, HB means her business. Spider-Boss says Cody Rhodes being the one who beat Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title would be the right call. And certainly it's a possibility. It genuinely didn't click that could have been her business. Vegeta says men and women can't be in a match together. Why not? It's Rhea Ripley, isn't it? Why not? Ray says, what is your favourite match of 2023 from any company? So far, the Triple Threat Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania, though I do have a soft spot for anything involving Will Ospreay versus Shingo. Leon says, WWE's booking of Trish's return, particularly the Becky feud, has been very disappointing. And Richard says, hello Tom, any chance of Bobby recruiting Cedric and Shelton again? They've gone over that ground so many times, and it's just a waste of time. I wouldn't. And Steve says Survivor Series is bigger than Money in the Bank in my opinion. Many more special moments over the years, and the second longest PLE in WWE history. We've just had a raid from a face that I recognise from the past. Dylan Tracy, how the devil are you? Thank you very much for coming over to the Twitch side and joining us and bringing people with you. Thank you very kindly. Welcome to the show. Razar says Finn, Dom, Damien, JD versus Cody, Sami, Kevin, Seth. Wiggly says, will Nakamura ever be a World Heavyweight or WWE title holder? No. Spider-Boss says, since WWE is still being PG, why would Rhea keep getting involved with the men? Because women can fight men and it'd be PG. Men can't fight women. Different thing. Your Mike says, that sounds great. Someone's enjoying it. Dylan says, hello, mate. I'm doing great. Good to hear. So welcome to the show. And thank you very much, AJ Jarski, for following on the Twitch side. Thank you very kindly. Ask whatever questions you would like. We're an Ask Me Anything stream. We still have a little bit to cover. Lacey Evans, the future for Roman Reigns and title defences, and a little bit on the working relationship between Mercedes Money, formerly Sasha Banks, and Triple H. Jack, I'm not entirely sure what you're doing there, but you enjoy it. Joey says, I think MVP should go back to managing Bobby. He's not doing anything of Omos apart from managing him. Ken says, will you do a meet and greet at All In? Nope. I will be doing my own thing. I'm there as a fan. I'm not there to make it about me. I'm not. Spider-Boss says, do you see MJF and Adam Cole winning tag team gold at All In? Don't know. Don't really follow enough of the stories. Don't really follow enough. Lacey Evans is looking to start an OnlyFans and is already starting to create fan-only content. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that people only use OnlyFans for pornographic content, because they don't. I want to be very clear on that. OnlyFans is not just used for pornographic content, but Lacey Evans is looking at creating some OnlyFans, creating a revenue stream which does not necessarily involve wrestling. She is currently fielding a number of offers, but they are from smaller companies and federations than you might expect for someone who's formerly WWE. Wiggly says, on the British wrestling theme, Tom, one name only in your opinion, the greatest British wrestler of all time. I'm going with Drew McIntyre. Will Ospreay, no question. Will Ospreay. Also says, Lacey Evans left the WWE. Yes, indeed, she has. She is officially out of the WWE. She has let her contract run down. They were not able to convince her that they had any fresh ideas for her. They were not pushing her with anything that she wanted to do, and she just wasn't particularly happy to be there, so she left. Ken is openly saying, I've subscribed to OnlyFans accounts. Fair enough. Daniela says, were you surprised when Ray won the US title? Yes, it was very confusing. Joey says, was it Triple H that didn't want to bring back Lacey Evans? The WWE wanted Lacey Evans to sign a new deal. It is Lacey Evans who didn't want to bring back Lacey Evans. The WWE wanted her to continue. Vegeta Ospreay is the finest UK wrestler there's ever been. Do you watch a lot of Ospreay's work? Spider-Boss says, do you think a face turn would help Austin Theory? Nope. Joey says, is Elias still under contract? Yes, he did. Yes, he is. Sean says, did WWE scrap the rule of a 30-day no defense of titles? Nope, because there never was a rule to begin with. That was completely made up to serve a storyline when they had it. Wiggly has renewed his subscription for a 25th month. Thank you very kindly, Wiggly, for your continuing generosity. I very much appreciate it. That says, do you think we'll have the Hardys there, Tom? Also hope we get Jericho versus Ospreay. Jericho versus Ospreay is going to happen. The Hardys, I don't see. Joey says, what's the plan for Ray with the US title? No idea. Could not tell you. Couldn't tell you. Roman Reigns does not have many title defenses left in 2023. In fact, they're currently desperately trying to change the fact that right now they have nothing planned for Roman Reigns and title defenses. Literally nothing. The next title defense looks like it will be a Saudi Arabia show, which means it will be against someone that the Saudi Arabia government essentially questions. So it'll be up to them to decide who's getting the opportunity. But when it comes to Roman Reigns, the only real plans involve the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, and he will feature at Survivor Series, though I can't sit here and say he's going to be defending the title. It is possible that Roman Reigns does not defend the championship in 2023 again. That is a possibility. Okay? Gotta throw that out there. Daniela says, weird for me how Ricochet was in a feud with Logan Paul and has not really been booked well since. It's only been a couple of weeks, and these things do take time. As KJ says, he was never being pushed, which is true. Steve says, I think it leads to Ray versus Santos later down the line for the championship. Ray probably being kicked out of the LWO. Kieran says, this year has been so bad for Roman's title reigns, not letting Cody win wasn't worth him defending it against Jay at SummerSlam. Very small amount of championship defenses, but it was good in the run into WrestleMania when we had Sami Zayn, and for one glorious moment, we believed. Finally, Mercedes Money, formerly known as Sasha Banks, has been in contact with Triple H over the last couple of months during her time injured, primarily because they just have a strong working relationship, but there has been talk about the possibility of whether or not she would be interested in returning to the WWE as Sasha Banks. There is an offer on the table from AEW and Tony Khan. There is not a formal offer, to my knowledge, on the table from Triple H and WWE, but there are conversations, first and foremost checking whether or not she was recovering well, but this did lead into a conversation about whether or not she'd be interested in returning. There is unfortunately nothing more I have at this point in time, because I know a lot of people are going to immediately ask questions about that. That is all I have. Wiggly, I didn't say she called Triple H. Juan says the year is 2025 and Roman is still champion. Just imagine that. Leon says further proves why Cody should have won. The titles have added nothing to the Bloodline storyline. They did initially, but certainly not since. Kevin, welcome, says hello Tom. Hope you had an amazing time off. What would be the one match you would have loved to see live in person? Mine would be Hogan versus The Rock, purely for the incredible crowd. AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins. They're just two amazing wrestlers that would do amazing things. Though if I could be in attendance for the Boneyard match, that would be fun. Joey says, I don't know if you mentioned it before, but do you know if Bray will cut down the supernatural stuff when he returns? I've said everything I possibly have about Bray Wyatt on Friday. And Wiggly thinks Cody will win at WrestleMania 40. KJ says, would be nice for Mercedes to win the Rumble. Mercedes versus Io could certainly be a lot of fun, though I don't necessarily think that's a possibility at this point in time. That does, however, lead us to the point where that is it for the news. There was plenty of headlines, most of which I'll be making into shorts or videos over the next few days, and I will be starting off my reviews of the last 12 months, the last 13 premium live events under Triple H. I'll be working backwards, starting with SummerSlam 2023 and working backwards through Money in the Bank and the like before we get to SummerSlam 2022. I'm planning to record them in roughly 10-minute batches, so each review is 10 minutes focused on where the main storylines were, and then they will be uploaded regularly at spoiler warning times on Wednesdays once they're all completed. It might take a week or two to get them all done, but I do have a lot of work already done in putting those together. There's a couple more videos I'm going to be looking at doing. For example, could do a lot more as regards Mercedes Money there and her conversations with Triple H and Tony Khan. I'll likely put that into a video as well, and a little bit more on Edge and where his position is as to whether or not he's going to be retiring. Joey says, was there ever a long-term plan for Roman's titles, or did they just wanted to pass 1,000 days? They are making it up as they went along. Sean says the build to Cody versus Roman at WrestleMania wasn't too good because Roman was mostly gone during the build-up. Wiggly says, are you going to do an all-in preview? No. KJ says, isn't a plan, and then says, in my opinion, Vegeta. Not sure what you're saying there, KJ. Spider-Boss says, awesome spoiler warning, mate. Thank you very kindly. That has been the news. I will be back on Friday with more spoiler warning and, of course, our SmackDown watch party as we continue to find ways to grow on this channel to create new and interesting content. If you've enjoyed this, please be sure to hit subscribe. In the meantime, though, as always, I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.